Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video. In this video, I want to talk some kind of wild Steam statistics coming from the Steam 2021 year in review that was posted on the Steam community page. Stats that really maybe shouldn't surprise me, but we'll talk about it, and I'll give you why it kind of surprised me, why maybe it shouldn't, and we'll also talk about some Elden Ring statistics, which I've been talking about for the last couple weeks since the game's been dropping. The game's doing incredibly well. We'll talk that in a little bit, but first of all, the Steam 2021 year in review did drop, and there's a lot of information in this review that maybe in a future video I'll dive into some of the other statistics that are available, because there's quite a bit of information, various stats, Steam Deck, all that good stuff. But in this video, I want to particularly talk about the Steam platform growth because I found this rather interesting. Alright, so let's read an excerpt from this post. 2021 was successful even in comparison to 2020's unprecedented growth. Players spent almost 38 billion hours on Steam in 2021, a 21% increase over 2020. That's a whopping 4.3 million years of playtime. Players spending on games rose 27% compared to 2020, growing even more than playtime did. That growth wasn't just due to existing players either. Steam saw 2.6 million first-time purchasers each month of 2021, roughly the same rate of new purchases growth we saw in 2020 as the global pandemic unfolded. Now, that latter portion is why I find this so interesting. There's a couple of other interesting tidbits. Steam gift cards, particular edition of console exclusives coming to Steam. So there's a lot of factors on why this is. Why I find this fascinating is because when I talked about this stat last year, talking about 2020, everybody was like, well, that's to be expected. Pandemic, everybody's at home, yada, yada, yada. And while that was kind of the case in 2021, towards the latter portion of the year, things did start opening back up. Everybody started going back to their job and whatnot. You could say that it was still somewhat of a factor, and maybe we have to wait until the entirety of 2022 plays out so we can get a quote-unquote non-pandemic era stat layout, but I still find that rather interesting because the argument would be PCs are so expensive. Why are people buying PC games? And not necessarily does this mean they're buying games on their high-end PC. It could be people with existing PCs. It could be people that are buying, lower-end games that are playing them on a lower-end computer that they've had for a long time, etc., etc. But I also do feel like that there is a shift of people coming into PC gaming because I keep seeing these games break records from previous games. Like, we're talking about these concurrent player counts and my mind is being blown every single time I see stats for games that I wouldn't think would be that big. A Days Gone doing really well. Like, Days Gone was not that big of a PlayStation exclusive and it seemingly did really well on PC. I was expecting God of War to do really well. That game did way better than I had expected it to do on PC as well. Obviously, it was going to be a big game, but the numbers it was pulling was kind of wild. And then obviously, most recently, Elden Ring, I mean, you're talking about cracking 1 million players. Like, this is insane statistics for a time period. You would think people are not buying video cards as much, or if people are buying video cards, they're listed somewhere on eBay or secondhand sellers. But I don't know if it's the case of it. I don't know if it's a psychological thing where because it has like a premium price tag on it, now other people that are like, wow, it has such a high price tag on it, maybe this is a reason to buy said platform, adding to an air of FOMO, because I get that with PlayStation as well, because PS5s are so expensive that maybe there's more interest from people that because it's more expensive. I have no idea. I'm trying to make sense of this because, to the naked eye, to me, and maybe I am kind of dumb when it comes to this, that seems like a wild stat. You did have free-to-play releases like Halo Infinite, and that game seemingly did well for a while, tapered off a little bit, and don't get it twisted, there are still flops. Like, it's not like every game coming out is a banger. I can point out the God of Wars, I can point out, Days Gone exceeding expectations, Halo Infinite doing really well, Elden Ring, but then you have Battlefield 2042s of the world and games like that. Resident Evil Village did really well as well, I should give that game some credit. But you have your Battlefield 2042s of the world. But man, Valve is raking in cash, and considering they are just digital sales, man, I feel like there's gotta be a sense of Sony looking at these numbers being like, yo, we're investing a lot of money into making these big budget games. And yes, I'm sure that they would love to have people into that Sony ecosystem, but what value is there that much to have that Sony ecosystem? Sure, you get some PlayStation Plus money, they're buying your games on the PlayStation platform, but if they're gonna buy your games on the PlayStation platform, I feel like exclusives aren't as big of a factor as maybe they were in the past, and why not drop your games, maybe not day and day, but maybe we don't gotta wait 3 years for these games to come out on Steam, because if you're talking about dropping a game on Steam, it's all digital sales. You're opening up the game to an insane amount of people, and you're selling 1 million copies, 2 million copies. Let's take a conservative number of 1 million copies. Do some math, let's figure out some numbers here. You're talking $20-30 million of revenue that PlayStation would be taking in, probably more. And I'll tell you guys this, it probably does not take Sony $30 million to port a Horizon, a God of War to PC, and ultimately, it's just gonna be residual revenue that they're gonna be taking in for years and years having these games on PC. So, I don't know, maybe, I'd love to, I already beat Forbidden West, but I love that game so much that if it dropped on PC, bro, I'd play it again. And that's where, people like me are honestly, perpetuating bad business practices of, Sony can be like, yo, this shill will buy the game over here, then we can sell to this shill again, to buy the game again. Yeah, maybe I gotta stop doing that. Not gonna do that for every game, but Horizon Forbidden West was in particular a game. I love narrative-driven games, and I really enjoyed that game. But, would love to see that game on PC. Probably not going to happen anytime in the near future, but hopefully sooner rather than later. Also, I do want to note Elden Ring having a blockbuster start at US retail. Now, that's not really relevant to PC gaming. However, the game was sold at retail for PC as well, I believe. And the game is the best-selling game of 2022 in the US thus far, and the 5th best-selling title of the 12-month period ending in February. So you're looking back to February of 2021. The game is doing exceptionally well. All you have to do is look at the Steam numbers, but, with these franchises that are releasing new games on Steam, every new entry just obliterates the previous entry's release, as long as it's a decent game. I believe the same thing happened with Resident Evil Village, so it'll be interesting to see if that continues, because I foresee, the next major game, whatever it is, I can't really think of it off the top of my head, but I also read, WWE 2K22, obliterated the previous games on PC. Now, the last one, I believe, was an absolute disaster, but still, a game that's on a smaller scale to Elden Ring is still obliterating previous numbers. That might be an indication of the games being better, people appreciating the games more, but I also think it's relevant to the growth of Steam as a platform, and the growth of PC as a platform as a whole. And what you notice also is while PC is growing, I feel, the Steam platform is growing, I feel like consoles aren't getting smaller. People are still going out in droves buying a PlayStation, going out in droves buying the Xbox consoles, and again, maybe that's just two different audiences and gaming as a whole growing. How about that? That'd be best case scenario for everyone. More people playing on PC, more people playing on consoles. Now just drop games on every platform. Drop Halo on PlayStation, drop Horizon on Xbox. Let's just all come together and holy matrimony, as they would say. I mean, sometimes I simplify things. I'm sure there's a lot of X's and O's that you have to consider when bringing a game from one platform to the other, whether or not it's financially viable, whether or not it's a good financial decision, things that are way above my pay grade, but I would like it to one day all just be anyone can play on any platform, you can buy games wherever you want, it's all day one. But that's another topic for another day. But that's going to do it for me. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. I thought this was pretty interesting information to go over. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.